Thank you, and one more time, thank you. Welcome back to my vinyl collection series. We are now on part 16. Just what I was doing a second ago was I was thanking the almighty powers, whatever they may be out there on a greater dimension, because finally, after 7 years of waiting, Lantlos has released new material. Seriously, people, I've been waiting 7 years for this moment, and it's going to be released at the end of July, which I can promise you, with every little drop of sperm in my nutsacks, that I am going to review this album, because again, I've been waiting for it for 7 years, and finally. In the previous part, we ended on Emperor's Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk, which again, I know that translates to album superior to that of In the Night Side Eclipse. So anyway, moving on to the next band, which is going to be Endon with their debut full-length Mama. Endon is a Japanese noise grind band that I remember catching live back, I think, like around the end of 2017, and these guys are fucking bananas insane. Like, shit. Their vocalist, he does like these shrieks and screams and howls that are just so unnatural. Like, I feel like, with my knowledge of how to do, vocals, I guess, from videos I've watched, there's no way the guy in this band's, like, following any of that. Like, he's definitely, like, destroying his vocals, because there's no way that's, like, any type of technique he's using. And if it is, it's something really abstract, because it's, like, it is just so fucking insane how this guy shrieks. It's nuts. And another thing too that makes these guys quite the standout for noise grind is typically you'll have like just one person on a soundboard. These guys have two on the soundboard just to make it all the more chaotic. There's no bass player. They only have one guitarist and a drummer. And this is just, again, really insane noise grind with a bit of experimentation that makes it kind of like emotive and ambitious, because usually that's not adjectives I would describe noise grind, because for like the most part, noise grind just consists of bands that, they're doing like 280 BPM as fast as possible with blast beats, guitar riffs that just sound like a broken washer machine with like a brick inside of it. Like, there's not really much to it with noise grind, yet Endon has structure and just, it's emotive again, so really quite the standout. And this album right here, for the most part, is really solid, especially all the weird type of electronics that just kind of like smash and crash into each other to make this, a clusterfuck, but a really creative clusterfuck for the most part. But yeah, got this through a Hydra Head. Not really sure if it's still available, but definitely a band to check out if you want more of like a creative, emotive, and ambitious take on noise grind. So yes, for the later on packaging, you have this artwork of just weirdness. Backside with more artwork of weirdness. Comes with an insert sheet with just the track listings and nothing on the other side. And this LP variant comes on clear vinyl. Next up happens to be the album that I crowned as my album of the year for 2017. And that's once again Endon with their sophomore full length, Through the Mirror. Basically everything I said about the previous album, it being very emotive and ambitious, they went tenfold with this album. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this. This is kind of like the most artistic way of being a clusterfuck. Like, it is just mind-blowing, just the creativity and just sounds you're going to hear in it. Again, it's a mixture of like noise, power electronics, grindcore, industrial, ambience, just weird, crazy, wacky experimentation that just feels artistic. It is just such a mindfuck in the most ambitious, chaotic ways possible. Tracks on here like Your Ghost is Dead, Born in Limbo, Post-Sex, Perversion Till Death, the title track Through the Mirror. It is so incredible. It is like, it leaves me speechless just how intense this album is. That honestly, I would say like this is the greatest noise grind album I've ever heard, and possibly one of the greatest grindcore albums if you really want to get technical with the subgenres album I've ever heard too. Like, it's really a work of art. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, other than that, this is definitely the best place to start out with these guys if you want to check them out. Pretty sure, don't hold me to it, again, maybe Hydra Head still has copies of this, not 100% sure, but that's where I got my copy of it. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging, you have artwork that's spot glossed, backside with the track listings, comes with an insert sheet of just random artwork and track listings on the other side, and this LP variant is on crystal clear vinyl, the limited edition, I believe, limited to 200 or 100 copies. Last thing I have by Endon is their latest full length, that being Boy Meets Girl. Wow, what a massive, massive disappointment this album is. I've spun it once, and I'll probably only spin it once ever. Like, man, like, all the excitement, all the ambition has just gone. Like, the only thing that's left about them now is, like, the emotive standpoint of how they write Noise Grind is left. Like, it's still a very emotive driven, but like the previous two albums, it's like they made a very wacky, crazy, experimental take on Noise Grind. Here, they're trying to still be a noise grind band while trying to play the style of noise rock, and it's just very odd, and just not in like the creative, like, ooh, that's different type of way, like just really boring, drawn out type of way. Because there's other tracks on here too that it's just like noise, and it's just basically like a girl crying over like power electronics for like 10 minutes straight, and it's just so boring. It is like, it's a chore to listen to this, and I was so disappointed because I was so excited for it, because Through the Mirror was my album of the year. I was like, man, what are they going to do next? And they just make this really generic noise rock album with power electronics thrown in the mix. So yeah, really disappointed with this release. I mean, other than that, again, this was put out through Thrill Jockey. I'm happy to see that they're on a bigger label now, but if you're ever so inclined to get this, you can get copies still at Thrill Jockey. I'm still going to give them another chance because I am interested to see what they'll do next, because clearly they do change it up with each release, but damn, such a disappointment. But again, other than that, you have the album artwork, backside. Comes with a printed inner sleeve with just kind of like a concept about how this album was written on one side and artwork on the other. And this vinyl edition comes on like a semi-translucent purple smoke color. Proceeding on next is going to be Enmity with the full-length Wu Yang. Enmity is a Chinese dark ambient project that I remember discovering about a handful of years ago and really digging this a lot. Now, it is a dark ambient project, but it definitely favors the whole black metal fan base, mainly because the vocals and whispers and like somewhat, I guess, shrieks on here definitely are like that whole black metal friendly type of vibe that I remember. I think, yeah, it was Max Ducardi with his project KFR. He did a split with Enmity. And if you enjoy, again, like, all the, I guess the best way to put it is all the dark ambient projects that were a part of the Les Legions Noir, if you dig any of that, you'll definitely find something to enjoy with Enmity. Only, I would say the whole, like, Asian aesthetic is kind of intertwined here a little bit with the folklore, which makes it quite interesting. But again, it's definitely a dark ambient project that's kind of meant for black metal fans. The only other thing to talk about here is, as you can clearly see with the Obi strip, it was put out through Go to Warex, which recently kind of lost quite a bit of respect for that label, because now the guy's like fucking flipping his own records. And I know that's not like a Go to Warex exclusive thing, because other distros and labels do it too. Like, I know I saw someone point out that Corpse Gristle did it. I know Liver Mortis, which is just such a shit excuse of a label, does it too. Ancient Records does it sometimes. It's just like, got no respect for that. If you're going to sell 300 records at a retail price, sell all 300 records. Because I don't know who the fuck you're kidding, by saying that you have a distro, you sell out, and then you just happen to find like 5 or 10 extra copies and you're going to sell them for $90. Fuck out of here with that shit. That's just, in my opinion, just scummy as it fucking gets. And don't give me the excuse that he's a businessman. That's just straight up scum right there in my personal view. But anyway, other than that mini rant, as for the layout and packaging, it's one of the few times Go to Warx ever did a full-on gatefold and stuff with it, so they really went above and beyond with it. So for the layout, you have artwork. Backside comes on a gatefold. Love that picture, by the way. Proceeding on next is going to be Envy with the full-length Atheist's Cornea. Envy, from what I've noticed, is a very respected post-hardcore screamo band that's been around for quite a while, and I'm pretty sure really the only original member is the vocalist that's a part of this. And I remember actually catching these guys live when they opened up for Death Heaven a few years back, and they were honestly really good. And I ended up buying this album of theirs during their set. And what track is it? I think it's the track Ignorant Rain at the End of the World. Gorgeous track. And another thing too that makes them a bit different from your typical post-hardcore band is that they have a lot of usage of ambience involved with it. It's not just your typical like, oh, I'm mad at the world and I'm a sad boy type of post-hardcore. Like, there's actually a bit of like, creativity going on with this band, and their usage of keyboards and ambience really just makes them stick out from the rest of the pack. And I definitely need to get more Envy, because sadly at the moment this is all I really have by them. But I play this every once so often and it definitely hits the spot. So yeah, definitely check out the track Ignorant Rain at the End of the World. Footsteps in the Distance is another great track. And Two Isolated Souls. Stellar stuff by these guys. But this was put out through Temporary Resistance, so if you want a copy, get it there. So as for the label and packaging, you have artwork, backside with the track listing, printed inner sleeve with lyrics on one side, and artwork on the other. And this LP variant comes on a dark blue vinyl. Before doing this vinyl collection series, I never realized just how much I have by this band, that I guess I just went on a spending frenzy trying to collect everything by them, that I nearly have the whole discography on LP. I never realized that until now. But next up is going to be the debut full-length by Evilfeast, that being Mysteries of the Nocturnal Forest. Evilfeast is a one-man black metal project, I believe from Poland, and I would definitely say out of all the black metal bands from Poland, Evilfeast is definitely up there as one of my personal favorites. Because though his approach isn't anything all that new, it's pretty stereotypical within the genre, just, raw, harsh riffs, raspy vocals, and it makes up the cold, icy atmosphere. That's basically it. So I just kind of look at Evilfeast as it's a black metal band that's meant for just black metal fans, and that's really it. Plays along well with the ambience and atmosphere on here. Overall, the debut is just a black metal album that just really relies on ambience and atmosphere, and it's just overall pretty solid stuff. And that's really all I got to say about it. So it's pretty stripped down, and if that sounds appealing to you, if you're just a black metal fan looking for more black metal to check out, Evilfeast I would strongly recommend. But yeah, this was put out for the first time on vinyl through Temple of Darkness back in 2018, and snagged it up right away. And Temple of Darkness always does stellar jobs with their LPs. So yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging, you have artwork, backside with the track listings, and the man himself. Comes on a gatefold with all the lyrics. Double LP that come on standard black vinyl, but one thing that Temple of Darkness really likes doing is they kind of like having this certificate that just shows you that it's legit, and it's hand numbered out of 500 copies. I got number 221 out of 500. Then I had the follow-up full-length that is Evilfeast once again with Funeral Sorcery. Yeah, from what I've noticed, this seems to be like the fan favorite within the discography of Evilfeast, and really all it is the most stripped down and primitive sounding. It's just really just a basic raw black metal album, and that's kind of it. Like, it's not really relying too much on ambience or atmosphere to create some type of different sound. It's just the most stripped down and angriest within the catalog. Like, the riffs on here are really harsh, and that seems to be really appealing for all the Evilfeast fans. For me personally, it's a good album, but definitely not his best by any means. That if you're just looking for a good raw black metal album to put on, Evilfeast Funeral Sorcery is definitely one of them. But yeah, other than that, this is a repress put out through Amorpha, and I'm not sure if they're still available. I know for a while they were, but I've seen copies float around on Discogs for like a round retail price of $20-ish. So thanks to Amorpha, it isn't impossible to get anymore, because I know the longest time this album was so hard to get, which is probably why I jumped on it right away just from the repress alone. But yeah, other than that, as for the layout and packaging, you have artwork right here, backside with track listing, comes on a gatefold with lyrics inside, and as you would guess, plain black vinyl. As well too, I have the fourth full length by Evilfeast, that being Wintermoon Enchantment. Yeah, I basically have everything besides the third full length, which is Lost Horizons of Wisdom, I believe is the name of it. Need to get around to getting this full length. Again, another great album by Evilfeast. But anyway, Wintermoon Enchantment, hands down, is the absolute best by Evilfeast. This is really where the ambience and atmosphere truly captivate the sound of Evilfeast to just something truly special. Like, this album artwork perfectly depicts the mood setting that it's gonna like put you in. All right, I know it's very cliche. It's just, ooh, it's cold and atmospheric. Wow, that's nothing new. I get that, but it's just written so well. Definitely, if you're a fan of Paysage d'Hiver, you'll definitely resonate with this album. But to me, it comes off more melodic. The melodies on here are just more captivating. Just this album is just so gorgeous, and I love every second of it. That, if memory serves me right, I actually put it at the beginning of my top 25 all-time favorite black metal albums. It's definitely an album that I put on repeat every time I listen to it, because it's like, I really don't like saying this word because it's very cheesy, but it just kind of fits. It's almost like magical in some sense, as weird and cheesy as that is. Just again, for me personally, Wintermoon Enchantment, hands down, is the magnum opus within the discography of Evilfeast. But yeah, I know this is a first press because it's hand numbered. It's 467 out of 500. And the recent repress, once again put out through Amorpha, is basically identical. It's just not hand numbered, but I'm pretty sure you can still get it on the distro of Amorpha, so strongly recommend checking this album out. But yeah, other than that, getting on with the layout and packaging, you have album artwork right here, backside of the track listings. Comes on a gatefold like all the previous ones with just all the lyrics inside. Of course, comes on double LP, plain black vinyl, but this one actually comes with a poster, which is just basically of the artwork. And I have the latest full length by Evilfeast, that being Elegies of the Stellar Wind. So this is the first album that Evilfeast was under the label of Exhumed, and you can definitely tell that being on a bigger label has really strengthened the production value on here, because it's definitely the most well-produced sounding, but still, this album is, you know, really well done. That I would say it's really like the best album to start out with if you want to get into Evilfeast, because riffs on here are definitely more melodic, and the keyboards aren't really used in the sense of creating like atmosphere or ambience. It's just more to kind of like capitalize on the riffs and melodies being played here. That I know this is really like a really cliche comparison, but definitely reminds me a lot of like In the Night Side Eclipse, with just a bit more, you know, bite to it, I would say. But yeah, Evilfeast really hasn't done any wrong. The whole discography is just really top-notch, well-written black metal, that if you're a black metal fan that just looks for that black metal sound, Evilfeast has definitely got you covered with all the releases. But yeah, this was put out through Exhumed. Pretty sure there are copies still available, because I know they did a handful of represses after this because it sold out pretty quick. So Exhumed should still carry copies. But yeah, other than that, as I usually do all the time, about to talk about the layout and packaging. Anyway, with the layout and packaging, you have album artwork, backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold with the lyrics inside. Double LP, again on plain black vinyl, but this has a two-sided poster, so one side is of the artwork, and the other side is way cooler looking of the individual and mastermind behind this project, which again, really like that photo. And the final thing I have that is Evilfeast related is the latest EP titled Eisenheimen. This was a co-release put out through Morpha and Scold, which means you have it in this very glorified cardboard jacket, which I fucking hate. But yeah, had to buy this the moment I could because I know Morpha, thankfully since it's co-released by them, made it actually a bit accessible to buy because Scold is a very infamous label that, they sell out within a blink of an eye and it's fucking stupid. Sadly, to those people that actually like this label, because it did actually have some pretty good stellar releases, I know the label closed, I believe, like last year because from what I was told, the owner of Scold passed away. I don't know how or why that could have been the cause, but that's all I found out about, and that's quite the bummer to say the least. But Evilfeast, had to get it just for him. I would say with this EP, he's kind of going back to his roots because it's just really like a raw black metal EP. There's really not much to say here. It's really stripped down. Again, the ambience and atmosphere that really won me over with his writing with the later era isn't really found here. It's just, you know, raw black metal, and that's legitimately all it is. So it's not really much to say. But yeah, other than that, for the layout and packaging, it's a Scold release, so it's just going to be pretty bare bones because the back and front has all the track listings and artwork, standard black vinyl, and as I just showed earlier, it's on this over-glorified cardboard jacket, which I am just really not a fan of. Moving on to an album that's one of my personal all-time favorite death metal albums, which might confuse or maybe even piss off some of you guys because it's not an album that's anything groundbreaking. It's not an album that has legendary status, and it's kind of fairly new, and for a lot of people that are fans of this band consider it their worst. And that would be Exhumed's Necrocracy. Now, really for me, I get the fact that this is just like a death metal album, that's basically it. But I guess my personal attachment with this album is why I love it so much, because it's one of the first ever death metal albums I bought on CD, and I remember obsessing over it when it was released around 2013 when I was getting into death metal. So there's just a lot of personal attachment. And I get the fact that a lot of people don't like this because this is really where they evaporated the whole death grind aspect about them, because all the previous releases, as much as I love them and would love to get them on LP, they're just really hard to come by. It's just basically carcass worship. And I get the fact as to why that would appeal to so many death metal fans, because, you know, Carcass is like, you know, a really big name, very well-respected name within death metal, and if you can sound like them in any type of bit, which Exhumed basically did with all their early releases, I can definitely see the appeal. Whereas this album, they matured their songwriting, which is boring and dull for a lot of people to mature their sound, and they just became a death metal band with this release right here. But I think because of them kind of toning it down a bit and becoming a bit more tamed, the songwriting just really improved dramatically for me, because all the riffs just come off way more memorable, and the choruses just really resonate and click with me to the point that all these years later, I've just never gotten sick of this album. Tracks on here like Coins Upon the Eyes, The Shape of Death to Come, Dysmorphic, Sickened, which just has such a gnarly guitar solo in the middle of it, and The Carrion Call just get drilled in my head to the point that I just never ever get sick of this album, and just everything comes off just more memorable to me personally. But yeah, other than that, this release right here is a one and only time press and put out through Relapse. So hopefully they do a repress, or maybe they have done a repress and I'm just not aware of it. But again, I can totally understand why people don't care for this album. It's just my personal attachment and them maturing their sound, just it really won me over to the point that I just, again, never get sick of it, even though I've now stated that like 3 or 4 times. But anyway, for the layout and packaging, yeah, album artwork, backside with track listings, comes with a lyric sheet, as well too an A2 poster with the album artwork that comes on like this newspaper type of material, and this LP pressing comes on yellow with red splatter that literally looks like a pizza. Then I have the follow-up full length that is Exhumed once again with Death Revenge. For me personally, this is the worst Exhumed album. I know I was hyped for it, put the pre-order in, and all this is probably their most tamed album. Like, it's just a straight up death metal album, and that's it. It's the most stripped down. That really, the only thing about this that's quite unique is that it's a concept album for Exhumed, and it's not really that much of a standout of a concept. It's just grave robbers robbing graves and selling their corpses. That's it. I know in interviews I remember seeing it, like they talked about it so much, and I'm like, cool, yeah, that's kind of stereotypical for a death metal album. What else is it with it? And it's just a death metal album. It's just an old school death metal album by Exhumed, and that's basically it. It's a dime a dozen sound. And I mean, you know, I've spun this like 2 or 3 times, and maybe I got to give it another chance, but there's really not much of anything that stands out about this for me personally, other than I'm a collector scum that just wants to own everything by Exhumed. But again, for me personally, least favorite. Other than that, it's still available on Relapse, so get it there if you want it. So you got album artwork, backside with track listings. Comes on this massive poster of the album artwork on one side, and I hate that they did this. Lyrics with all the concept artwork on the other side. Seriously, so fucking dumb. If you're gonna have a poster, cool, but do not put the lyrics on it, because that is so annoying. And the only other thing to show here is the LP variant that comes on this clear with blue and red splatter, limited to 400 copies. The last record I have by Exhumed is their latest release, that being Horror. Man, this album is so fun to listen to. And for a lot of long-time fans of Exhumed, they really appreciated this album because they really went back to their roots and brought back that death grind sound that they utilized in their early beginnings. And yeah, another thing too about this album, there's a bit of like thrash metal kind of thrown in with it that brings that whole like hybrid sound of death thrash, because the track on here, what is it? Yeah, Naked Screaming and Covered in Blood. Oh, that song is so fun to listen to. And as I stated, it brings back the old sound of Exhumed, of the death grind aspect, because a lot of these tracks on here are really short in length. I think this album clocks in a little under half an hour long, and a lot of these tracks are like a minute and change. I know there's one track on here that's like only 5 seconds long, but definitely a very chaotic and bringing back the old sound of Exhumed here that fans of Mortician might enjoy, but more of like a death thrash edge to it in some degree. But yeah, other than that, once again, put out through Relapse. Pretty sure there are still copies available there, so get them at Relapse if you're ever so inclined to buy a copy. And yeah, other than that, the whole concept here is all about horror, as you can tell from the album title being Horror, because the backside here is just all of old VHS tapes. So again, can't emphasize it enough. If you're a fan of Mortician, you might enjoy this for the most part. But yeah, other than that, with the album artwork, really cool looking. We've got a little spot gloss going on there. Comes with an insert sheet of thank you notes and lyrics and song titles on the other side. And this LP variant comes on like blue and white stripe with red splatter in the middle. Once again, limited to 400 copies. Last 2 records are by the same band, and that would be Explosions in the Sky. This is, I believe, their sophomore full length. Those who tell the truth shall die. Those who tell the truth shall live forever. Explosions in the Sky, I would say, is one of the big names within post-rock, right next to that of like Godspeed You Black Emperor. And what I really admire about this band, and really the influence they left, is that so many fucking post-rock bands trying to sound like Explosions in the Sky that I know that a YouTube channel, World of Post-Rock, literally like 99.9% of the bands that they post basically sound like carbon copies of Explosions in the Sky. Like, it's fucking nuts. But I know a lot of influence that Explosions in the Sky took of is that of Spiderlands. You can definitely tell the influence being drawn there. But yeah, really they kind of like played the blueprints for what post-rock would be with their early albums. But this full length right here is a bit rough around the edges, a bit raw in the production value that gives it kind of like a standout feature because, you know, as much as I try to sympathize with the writing of post-rock, let's be honest, a lot of it sounds identical. The whole, like, you know, melodramatic guitar playing, and then it kind of like builds to like this epic climax. The songwriting is just like really getting to the point of like uninspired, but I don't know, something about Explosions in the Sky, I've just never seemed to get sick of them no matter how much I listen to them. But yeah, this is a great place to start out with these guys. But yeah, other than that, it was put out through Temporary Resistance, and I'm pretty sure they keep this widely in print because you can go to basically any record store and you'll find it. But other than that, comes with a printed inner sleeve, again identical of the album artwork, backside with just the credits and track listings, and yeah, on standard black vinyl. All instrumental, so no lyrics are being presented here, but just overall good, soothing, well-played post-rock. And the last record here is going to be Explosions in the Sky once again, with All of a Sudden I Miss Everyone. Yeah, just more Explosions in the Sky in my collection. I know I had like a phase, I guess, where I was just buying up anything I could find by them at record stores. And yeah, it's overall a good album. It's just I don't really know what else to say about it because I can't emphasize it enough. So many fucking bands basically got inspired by Explosions in the Sky and took their songwriting and they all sound identical. That whole, like, you know, melodramatic, you know, acoustic types of, you know, guitar passages at first, and it builds up to this epic climax when the drums kick in and it gets all, you know, monumental and epic. It's just basically, that's it. Like, just so many bands just sound like this album. So many bands try to be this album, and it's just been done, you know, to death basically, that it's just kind of like uninspired now. But yeah, for its time, it definitely was a very significant post-rock album. And that's basically it. I mean, if you want to get into post-rock, really all you really need is Explosions in the Sky, early Godspeed You Black Emperor, God is an Astronaut, and Yindi Halda, and that's basically it if you want to get into it. And the only names that I can think of that really have like a standout feature with them with post-rock is World's End Girlfriend. Definitely check out that if you want more of like the creative post-rock names that no one really talks about. But yeah, Explosions in the Sky really played, not played, but like, I guess you'd say, played out the template for what so many other bands would copy. But yeah, other than that, it's really easy to get. I know all the record stores I go to, I seem to come across this album, so really easy to find. Other than that, you just got the album artwork right here, and the backside with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold with more artwork. Double LP on plain black vinyl, but does come with printed inner sleeves, so you have side 1 and 2, along with side 3 and 4. Alright guys, that's it for this vinyl collection part. Like always, links will be provided to everything I talked about in the description below. And that is that. So like always guys, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and have a great day.